I'll try that again. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Somerset Council Planning West Committee. My name is Councillor Simon Cox. I'm the privilege of chairing this committee, and we are here today for a number of planning applications. So we will start the meeting now. Can I have any apologies for absence, please, Steve?
Yes, Chair, apologies from Councillor Abita Lavahi, Councillor Andy Surrey and Councillor Caroline Ellis.
Okay, thank you. Anybody aware of any other? Okay. Item two, oh, sorry, I've gone through the hasty. There are no planned fire drills this afternoon. So if you do hear a fire alarm, please exit via 2 clearly marked fire exits and meeting is in the car mark at the back of the building. Apologies for that important announcement. Okay, so minutes of the last meeting. Is it your wish to sign as a true record? Thank you, Sarah. A second. Thank you. Can I just see those in favour, please? That's carried. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. I'll do that now. Thank you. I think it's free on our agenda today. It's declarations of interest. I have any declarations.
Thank you, Chair. I have personal conflict of interest with interest being item 89, so I'm completely fluid at the beginning of the discussion of those two items. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, prior to my being on the committee, when item 89, the application relates to them was first submitted, I commented on them, so I'll be doing likewise for that.
Okay, Ross Mendel.
I'd like to declare interest on items 89. Applicant is there for me, and I'll be leaving the room. The declaration of this application.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, look, we didn't.
Late to note, I think I received an email this morning about it. So I was looking at, so I think we may all have received one. I received it as well.
Received.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that the email from Mr. Van?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I think it's fair to say everybody received that email on the meeting. Okay, so.
If I also know the applicant very well, but I don't think I'm prejudiced because I was here the last time we talked about saying that it didn't be through, and I don't think I've even got spoken to him about these things.
People will be aware that I also know the applicant, but I've never discussed this application on any others in company. So I'm sat on it last time and will continue to.
Yeah, item 6 on item 6.
Microphone, please.
Well, 6 and 7. Why has this got a different number than it had last time it came to this committee?
A new application.
The
new application.
Right. So do I need to declare that I had abuse on this one, so perhaps I'll remember it?
It's a matter for each individual member. So whether you feel you can approach the determination of any application on this agenda with an open mind.
Right. I think I can manage that.
Okay.
So,
Any sort of other comments, any other persons of interest? Not seeing any. Okay. Public questions for Martin. No public questions. Okay, so we're going to move into the main body of our meeting here with agenda item 5, which is the tree preservation order, which is it's the tree preservation order, Somerset Council West 523, 2 Jeffreys Way, Taunton. The tree preservation order protects one eucalyptus tree growing in the southeast corner of the rear garden of 2 Jeffreys Way, where it overhangs the neighbouring gardens, including 57 Merlin Road. the objectors recently built fence. Dick Barney will present on this one, and welcome to the committee something, and we'll look forward to it.
The plan, the TPO plan showing the location of the tree in the rear garden of 2 Jeffreys Way. The new house to the south is shown on the OS map, it's not looking at it. This outcome is a confirmation of tree preservation order, SC-5, served in September of last year, and to which we received one objection from the neighbours of that. The recommendation to council is that the TPO is confirmed by modified. The tree investment is concentrated in the rear garden of 2 Jeffreys Way. In the south-eastern corner of the rear garden is a mature eucalyptus tree about 57 Merchant Road. A new house on the Orchard Road development is currently underway. Being close to the rear boundary, the eucalyptus tree now overhangs the rear garden of 57 Merchant Road. The TPO served as it was alleged the tree was under practically improving capacity on the south side, entirely back to the boundary line. The large mature and healthy specimen that can be seen from numerous properties as well as from Jeffreys Way, Merchant Road, and Surrey Avenue. It therefore has immediate value and merits protection. The tree has now been successfully approved, filing the Senate under application 13-23-0326. The shade cost over 57 Merchant Road has been reduced, but the overall form and health of the tree is still remaining satisfactory with the owners and the neighbours. View of the tree from Merchant Road. And the aerial view of the tree, centre of the picture, can be reversed with the construction of new houses. The tree protection fencing can clearly seen in this picture. The TPO should be confirmed to ensure that any future management works, if necessary, are carried out correctly in accordance with BS 3998 and the best of the cultural practice. The recommendation, therefore, is to be confirmed and modified. Thank you.
I haven't got any speakers registered to speak on this particular item, so council over to you.
Bear in mind the comments in the conclusion, particularly on page 37. I would hope that we could proceed to confirm this with a recommendation.
Okay, according to any other contact, Andy?
Second.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so
Can I just ask a question about eucalyptus trees and the preservation? I think it's a notice. But I'm not sure whether it's unusual to protect them. I mean, it's a very big one. I've got one in quite big as well, but I just wonder whether it's unusual to protect them. Although I can see why in this case it went merit protection.
Apologies, I don't know the answer to that. I understand
okay, well,
Yes, I may be able to help. The eucalyptus is native to Australia, and so it's not what you would say a native. On the other hand, I would suspect, looking at the picture, that this has been worthy of protection because of its prominence in landscape and street scene, rather than its intrinsic value as a eucalyptus tree in the UK.
okay, so well, we've had the recommendation to grant unmodified, and that's been proposed by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Hadley. Can I see those in favour? You're not voting what?
You know, to read the report, sorry.
Okay, thank you. That's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 6 on our agenda, which is 20/23/0045, and it's 19 and 20 Dill Meadow, Parsonage Lane, Kingston, St Mary, Taunton, and the planning officer is Brian Wilson. Good afternoon.
So it's a site location plan located. The recommendation is to remove the restricted condition on 2 holiday units in the meadows. The site location plan showed, X 19 and 20 are located to the south of the site, close to the entrance. The 2 units have been built and following it. Which is the people being inside, and the 2 units enter the plan. And the screen currently shows the settlement boundary, which is approximately 200 metres to the north of the site, which is that back in only 9 metres feet. There's a footpath that runs to the west of the site, and the consistency area of the plan is currently examination. The emerging plan proposes a change to the settlement unit. However, the plan has made it clear that it's unlikely to be adopted until the Community Council approves our new local plan, Somerset. The full and submitted plans do not meet the minimum space standards as measured, and contrary to policy C10 and the actually described space standards. View of the site. The access area. The key considerations are as follows: the cycle drive is not within the space standards. The affordable housing contributions recommended within the report and through the kind of a statement do not overcome the policy objection. The proposal is considered contrary to policy and is recommended for refusal. However, it should be noted that we received an appeal decision last week where the inspector found that we did not have a 5-year housing master plan, and therefore the authority found it to come into play. And therefore, the reason for refusal, the first reason for refusal within the report, is no longer be applicable in which is viewed as a standard refusal. Thank you.
I'm just going to put an hour to the committee on this one.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to follow up Brian's comments on the tilted balance position. As she said, last Wednesday, we received an appeal decision in relation to development in Creek St Michael, where the inspector concluded that the area in the Dean area, we do not have a 5-year housing master plan at present, as of today. Now, what that means is that when you're looking at the planning balance in applications in that area, including this one, we're having what's called tilted balance situation. So what the NPPF says, paragraph 11D, is that where we don't have a 5-year housing master plan, you should only refuse applications if the harm significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits of the proposal. As Brian has asked, there were 2 reasons in the officer report for recommending refusal of this application. One was a policy reason for refusal. The second one related to the size of the units in space. Because of that appeal decision and the tilted balance situation we're now in, officers are not recommending we go with the first reason for refusal, but are obtaining and recommending the application be refused on the basis of the size of the units. This will become relevant later on in the committee as we go through our as well.
Okay. And we'll move to public speakers next. And the first speaker on my list is Joe Haynes. Mr. Haynes, if you come to the public speaking desk, push the right-hand button, the light comes on, and your 3 minutes start when you begin speaking. Okay, sir? Thank you. I'll indicate when you've got 30 seconds left.
Members of the committee, I thank you for the time to speak in support of this application made by my grandparents. My words apply to the following application, 2023-0044 Alston. My name is Joe Haynes. I have lived my whole life in Kingston St Mary. I have run my own contracting business for the last 10 years, working in the parish and neighbouring villages. Despite working hard and saving, at the age of 30 years old, I'm currently renting and still unable to find a suitable housing option within the parish. There are no affordable or self-build options, nor any plans in the near future. The parish council has confirmed this with their housing needs survey and neighbourhood plan, which clearly identified the need in our community for 2 and 3 bedroom houses and self-build options. The last affordable housing development in the village at Sawyersley was completed when I was attending a primary school adjacent. The last open market 2 up, 2 down construction completed last year had a price tag of £550,000. A bungalow that needed 4 refurbishments sold at £525,000. And my own childhood home, which my father built when he was my age, recently marketed at 1.6 million, when it sold for a little over half that 10 years ago. So where does that leave me and others my age? An active member of the community who proudly contributes to daily village life and was raised to work hard, save hard, and do right by others, and you will lead a fulfilling life. In truth, this seems impossible unless I am to move out of my village and my community, affecting both my business and my way of life. But I have been selfish, as I'm not the only one who requires this kind of development. Many family-sized properties where I work are owned by single or couple occupants over the age of 60, who, like me, love their community and surrounding, but are stuck living and heating massive homes as there's nothing to downsize into. Support here would show support for them, local need over second home use. At this meeting held last August, after sitting through nearly an hour of misinterpretation, misinformation, and misrepresentation, both earlier applications were denied approval by this committee. After a clear and present need was shown and reinforced through overwhelming community comments of support, which still apply to these applications. I personally feel this could have been avoided if someone from the planning department or the committee would have taken time out to come and see what we had to offer. These are not sheds or huts, as members have called them in the past. They surpass the majority of housing stock in this district in quality and sustainability. Mill Meadow has created a beautiful site adapted for brownfield that coexists with the environment. A family-run business trying to diversify in challenging times. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next person on my list is Councillor Bob Williams, please. Mr. Williams, Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Again,
No longer a councillor.
no, my apologies, I thought you were there representing the parish council.
I am representing the parish council. I'll explain.
If I misunderstood, not the parish council?
No, I am representing the parish council, but I'm not a parish councillor.
My apologies.
I was asked to represent the parish council, but by Mr. Chairman.
No problem, yeah, you, 3 minutes, you start speaking on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, good afternoon. I've been asked to give you Kingston and St Mary Parish Council's view on both these applications. This will be an overview. Other speakers will elaborate individual points. The Parish Council supports both planning applications and asks you to approve them. Lifting the occupancy restriction on plots 15 to 20 would give Somerset Council £150,000 as a contribution towards affordable housing, one of your priorities. The Parish Council accepts that Mill Meadow is outside the settlement boundary for the village, but developments outside the settlement boundary have been approved elsewhere in Somerset, where local circumstances justify it, as they do here. I'll give the reasons why you should lift the occupancy restrictions only in outline. Since the NPPF was issued last December, its direction has superseded the basis for previous refusals of Mill Meadow applications, Taunton Dean's 2012 core strategy. Mill Meadow is in the heart of the Millcross residential area of Kingston St Mary and is a brownfield, not a greenfield site. Mill Meadow is a sustainable location. It has a bus stop at Millcross Crossroads, only some 100 yards away from its entrance. The bus has a regular return service to Taunton, and Mill Meadow is on a safe walking route to the village's many amenities. All the properties on plots 15 to 20 meet relevant building control standards and are mortgageable. Plots 19 to 20 are not too small. They meet the size standard for 2 to 3 bedroom homes. Highways has said that lifting the occupancy restriction would have no material adverse impact on traffic flow through the village. Plots 15 to 20 could bring up to 25 people in 6 families to Kingston St Mary. They would probably be working adults with young children, exactly the new blood that the village needs for it to grow, thrive and be sustainable. The parish council asked you to give due weight to the NPPF, in particular its paragraphs 82 and 83. They say that planning decisions should be responsible to local circumstances and should support housing developments that reflect local needs. And that to promote sustainable development in rural areas, housing should be located where it will enhance or maintain the vitality of rural communities. To conclude, the parish council supports both these applications and asks you to approve them, as this would give priority to local residents over second home owners. Members, thank you.
Thank you, Bob, for your comment. The next speaker on my list is Simon Dunn. Again, when you're ready, your 3 minutes start when you start speaking.
Of the director of the Transport Planning Group at Sands Consultancy, we're commissioned by the applicant to carry out an independent transport assessment and to review the planning officer's comments. We're in agreement, crucially, with the highways officers that there is no significant traffic impact and therefore no justifiable traffic or highway reasons to refuse the applications. We know that the planning officer suggested that the footpath is unsuitable for accessible and sustainable access for everyday needs. Although this kind of quoted journeys to school and journeys to work, this contradicts the council's own policy, which states that the existence of a suitable route is used to determine whether pupils get assistance on trips to school. And therefore, as there is a footpath in existence, regardless of its condition, pupils would be ineligible for assistance. A previous report and comment from an appeal by the inspector was quoted when it was suggested that the inspector said that because of the absence of lighting and a bound surface, the footpath could not count as a sustainable or accessible route. What the inspector said was that people might depend on their car other than for everyday needs, which confirms that it is suitable for everyday use, such as school and work trips. Comparison has been made to transport conditions within the village. Again, we come back to the fact that the planning officer said the absence of lighting and a bare metal surface made the footpath unsuitable. This is the point that the village doesn't have street lighting either, nor does the village have very much in the way of continuous segregated footpaths. Hence, the number of residents who've said that they prefer to use the traffic-free footpath because it is far safer and more convenient than using the longer alternative route through the village. And finally, we draw attention to the fact that although the emerging village plan has been dismissed because it has not yet been adopted, it refers to infrastructure improvements to develop and incorporate pedestrian and cycling improvements from Taunton to northern villages. But it's not the only document that refers to those. Those improvements are part of the council's own local walking, cycling improvement structure plans. Therefore, we move that as a material consideration, they should be taken into account. Thank you.
The next speaker on my list is Mr. James Barnes. Mr. Barnes. I think on with all the others public speakers, your 3 minutes start when you commence speaking. Thank you.
No, it's already pressed.
It's already pressed, yeah. When you're ready.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is James Barnes. I'm a chartered surveyor and a registered valuer and have 40 years experience dealing with property in Somerset. I've been instructed to correct the errors in the planning officer's report stating that the two properties do not meet the minimum space standards as set out in policy D10. I believe the planning officer has incorrectly scaled the plans that have been provided. I have personally inspected both properties and measured them in accordance with the RCS Code of Measuring Practice to gross internal area. Whilst policy D10 is silent on the matter of areas with a headroom below 1.5 metres, I have followed the government's technical housing standards guidance on the matter and have disregarded areas on the first floor that have headroom below 1.5 metres. On plot 19, I've arrived at an area of 79.5 metres. It is a two-bedroom house. One bedroom is less than 11 metres, thus making it a two-bedroom, three-person house. The minimum size for this is 61 metres as set out in policy E10, but I have measured it at 79.5 metres. On plot 20, I've arrived at an area of 96.8 metres. There is one double and two single bedrooms, making it a three-bedroom, four-person house. The minimum size for this is 74 metres, as set out in policy D10, yet we measured it at 96.8 metres. Thus, both houses will exceed the minimum sizes as set out in policy D10. I also wish to briefly comment on the potential mortgageability of both properties. I found them to be traditional concrete block cavity construction and timber flat in good condition. I have dealt with many properties that are at least partly timber clad, and while each mortgage company had their own lending policies, I have never had an issue with timber cladding on such construction. And personally, I just wanted to comment on the safe footpath or the lack of a safe footpath. I've recently been staying at Mill Meadow. My wife uses an electric wheelchair. We've been up there this morning. We can easily access the village through that footpath using an electric wheelchair. So our place is where it's muddy, we tied it up. And she's also registered for the countryside mobility using a tramp scheme. And the footpath is now an approved footpath on the countryside mobility tramp scheme. So therefore not an unsafe footpath. It's safe and people can use it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Royal Upton, as well. In common with everybody else, so we 3 minutes go up and sat down and come through and start speaking.
Thank you, Chair and members, for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the applicant. As we've heard, the main difference in this application and the one submitted last year is the offer of affordable housing. The officer's recommendation before you was written on the basis that council could demonstrate 5-year housing land supply, and as we just heard, that refusal reason is no longer applied. Under the National Planning Policy Framework, this means that effectively there's a presumption in favour of this development unless any harm is considered to significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits of the scheme. So essentially there's a presumption in favour. This lack of harm, the perceived lack of harm should be set against the fact that provision of affordable housing is recognised as a significant benefit, especially as there's been no affordable housing in Kingston St Mary since the 1980s. There's at least 3 options for delivering affordable units on this property that can all be controlled through a Section 6 agreement. It's a brownfield site, and the properties also will be classed as self-build on the new build scheme. There's a lack of smaller properties in the village, which is an identified need as a part of a housing needs survey that's been undertaken. There's a lot of economic benefits in terms of being occupied full time. They would add more spending to the local economy. We're very surprised to see this refusal release reasoning in respect to the national prescribed space standards. The previous application wasn't refused on this grounds, and the building hasn't got any smaller. We only saw this issue last week when the report came out. We were asked to comment. We've looked at the measurements, and as the previous speaker has testified, who's the RICS surveyor, they do comply with the standards. I think the issue is the page has been printed at A4 and measured. If you print it at A3 and measure it, then the measurements that the previous speaker has described all match, and the building complies with standards. So I think that's where the problem is. I think we could deal with this issue by potentially agreeing that delegate to officers to confirm that the measurements do accord, and if that is the case, then potentially they could be approved. So to conclude, the applications change with the provision of affordable housing will be controlled through a Section 106 agreement. They can be mortgageable, the properties, so you could have a discounted open market property. We can make an off-site contribution. They can be affordable rent properties. In my view, and in that of the local community, the benefits far outweigh the very negligible harm that was identified and has now gone away in relation to traffic generation. This means that under the NPPF, the application should be approved. Thank you, Chair and members.
Thank you very much. And the last public speaker on my list is Councillor Garth. Councillor Garth. In common with everyone else, you have 3 minutes when you start speaking.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. You've heard from a range of speakers in support of this application from different perspectives, addressing some of the reasons given for refusal and offering relevant technical detail. My comments relate to both applications. As I have said at a previous committee meeting relating to Mill Meadow applications, it's not often that a parish council and the community are supportive of the new permanent development, but there is overwhelming support in Kingston for both applications. I will not repeat Rob Williams' points, but I do support the position of the parish council that he outlines and the evidence need for smaller properties as set out in the neighbourhood plan. You will have seen my comments on the report addressing the issue of garden amenity that was raised at the last submission, as well as drawing attention to the exceptional design of these properties, enabling a high level of energy and scope for phosphate capture, despite this not being a technical requirement for this application. The Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill passed in October 23 puts local people at the heart of the development and supports development on brownfield sites rather than greenbelt. As you heard, this is a brownfield site. I have been inside a number of the existing properties on the Mill Meadow site, and they are, in my view, entirely suitable as permanent homes, a long way from some of the holiday shallows you might have encountered elsewhere. We live in a very different world compared to 10 years ago. We are experiencing a housing shortage, a climate emergency, and acute stress on public sector finances and services. Approval of Mill Meadow planning applications will increase the availability of 2 to 3 bedroom homes in Kingston St Mary, giving priority to housing need for local residents over second home ownership. Their design addresses climate change sustainability, but this is also about the sustainability of the community, which needs homes for people at all stages of life and a range of incomes. The offer of £150,000 contribution towards the provision of affordable housing is very welcome in the community, and we support this. Thank you for your time.
And thanks indeed. Okay, councillors. Followed by Andy, please.
Chair, a couple of points. I would like some clarification, please, on the reason of the refusal on page 37. I think Mr. Evans said at the outset that the first one falls away, and the only reason for refusal remaining is now the space standard. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding. The planning's recommendation is now to refuse the application just on the second reason for refusal.
Okay, thank you. Now, lots been made of affordable housing. I've gone through the report a couple of times. I can't see any particular reference to it other than a contribution of a sum. So presumably that is what is meant. There's no restriction intended to be placed on these units for it affordable. It's available if this is passed, effectively become open market property with a contribution going back to the council to provide for affordable housing elsewhere. Is that correct?
Both don't meet the affordable housing trigger. So the applicant has offered one of three options, which we took the housing enabling team. We felt that option 3 for contribution was perfectly. So this we did that. And however, by limiting the 150,000, we would be allowing income to sit over the market, not affordable units at the rentals.
Oh, right, so the 150 relates to both applications. I see, thank you.
Andy, please.
Thank you, Chair. You've just answered one of my questions, actually. Basically, the only reason for the refusal of this application is the minimum space standards. What comment that I did hear somebody mention that wasn't actually a refusal at the planning application. I think this is a movement application, but it was actually included last night. And from the chartered surveyor, there is some question over the sizes as to whether they actually do meet the minimum requirement. So I think there's actually a grey area there. The council is saying that they don't. Chartered surveyors who are taken as a professional saying that they do. And this is the only reason these can be refused. So the only thing I would put forward is if it is accepted that we take on board the comment that was made that it's a condition that the measurements are correct.
Yeah, yes, through you, Chair. I suppose when there's a dispute over facts, which seems to happen here, I think there's two ways of doing it. One is the suggestion that's been made is that if members are minded to approve the application, that it's delegated to officers to check those figures and to verify that those figures are correct before issuing permission. That's one way of doing it. Or the application is deferred from this committee and those figures are resolved and the application brought back. But there's two ways you can do this suggestion.
Yeah, before I speak generally, can I just check on that point, that something raised in the advance? I assume that the report or something residential based on those figures on measurements have been submitted. So that's not the first time that the council is here today. Have they been sent in before?
In advance of that application. When going through the application, we double check the all measurements and then found that when I measured on the screen using the scales provided that it did meet space standards. When I've taken comments from the applicant, will be happy to double check. Triple check.
But just keep it so that when we get Mr. Barnes telling us there and then actually these are the figures, is that the first you hear of it or anything sent in before?
That's why I was in. But I will say what I haven't had a chance to check my emails the first week. I've not. I've got quite
Speaking more generally, I mean, I've got to say, I think I would have thought, there wasn't some mitigation behind it, I would have thought that if somebody's going to come to the committee with very relevant, different information, which changes the basis upon which you might make a decision without having been submitted in advance for consideration. However, my general view on this is, in fact, to support the application. I was at Kingston St Mary Parish Council when this was discussed long ago. I'm a member of Parish Council, which is within my division. And it is striking, the little dealing with here is a development which has the support of the local community, not just for some non-specific and generalised reasons, but because there is a recognised need for family properties within the area. Now, affordability as a phrase needs to be taken with a pinch of salt because these are not going to be very cheap, frankly, given the area in which they're located. But in terms of vibrancy of a local community, contribution which is made by families and others who move into the community, there's no getting away from the fact that on a year-round perspective, having new residents within the village, and I do regard this as part of the village, regardless of what is said to be the settlement boundary, this will make a difference in a way that holidaymakers would not. And you have the local community say, actually, we want these people living in these houses, not just using them as holiday accommodation. But if you go through the extracts of the FGPF that Lloyd referred to, the references to widening communities, development that supports the retention and development of accessible local services such as public houses, but that kind of thing. You will have to know things in a certain area and know where these houses are to realise that yes, of course they will make a contribution. It seems to me, at the risk of oversimplifying this, I would argue against this. One thing I would point out is, look, if you let people develop properties under the guise of being holiday properties, when they might not otherwise get permission, and then say, can we now turn them into houses, that sets a precedent, does it not? There's something in that, and that's a value, open point in many circumstances. But that doesn't mean that it always trumps things. And in this instance, these are not isolated. This is not a holiday cottage in an isolated area. Anybody knows it will know that it's within the privilege of the settled area, if you like. There is an obvious need for housing in that area. There is a balance to be struck. I have to say that in terms of deciding which way that balance tips, I think I might be in favour of approving it anyway. But actually, what we've been told now about the NPPF, sorry, the NPPF, and about finding housing and supply situations, to my mind, would sit in favour. And I just think, if I take a step back from this, in regard to the policy, in regard to the NPPF, and think, would this community be better for people living in these homes than get holiday makers? It will think I know which way I'd go.
And next one is Sarah Chair.
Yeah, thank you. You've just made some of the points I'm going to make in the sense of saying that I do not like development myself. I just don't like it. I'm sorry, if you want to build houses, don't build holiday lets, and then try and change the planning definition. There must be a reason why they restrict holiday lets, and I assume it's where they're located, I'm not sure. I'm just looking at the plans now. It's got a scale on it, but it looks, frankly, as if it's drawn without a ruler. I mean, I don't know whether that's the way it's just come up. It is a very sketchy plan, and I would have thought it was very likely that measurements taken from that plan may not be correct. It just doesn't look like a proper architect's plan. So, I'm concerned about the measurements. I'm concerned about the fact that this plot, these have no gardens. They are not what you would think of as being built for people to live in. As far as I can see, I've never visited them, so I don't know that part of it instead of photographs. It's about the construction. But I'm not satisfied with people building holiday lets and then trying to get them to permanent dwellings. I just do not think that's the right way to go about planning. And I think that if, as I say, if this site was suitable for housing, why didn't the applicant own houses and apply for housing at that time?
Thank you. Mind if we follow up on what's happening?
Thank you, Chair. I've got some sympathy for what Councillor Wakefield says about planning by stealth, but the plain fact here is that we have one valid reason for refusal, and that reason for refusal is about space standards. There's a dispute about the facts on that, so I think it would be unsafe for us today to refuse this planning application on that basis, which leaves open the options that Mr. Evans has laid out for us. One of those is to defer it. I never really like deferring things unless there's a really good reason. The other option is that we delegate the ability to determine this planning application to our officers, having determined finally what the size of these units is. So that's what I'm going to propose that we do, that we delegate the ability to determine this planning application to our officers, having privately determined the actual sizes, and if those sizes do meet the minimum standard, the application is approved. If they don't, it's refused.
Yeah, I think the major reason, as others have said, for refusal was the chalet should be occupied for tourism purposes, so it should not be occupied as the sole main residence. That's been removed in light of the appeal decision we heard about at the top of the meeting. That really pulls the rug from the vast reasons, majority, I think, of reasons why recommendation or refusal. I'm not an expert panel, I'm not sure how this would stack up appeal the actual existing, the remaining reasons for refusal. Yeah, I'm kind of way through with others, but I don't like people getting planning applications and previous tourist visa, or other reasons they're coming back and asking for residential. But I don't see it's not a cynical one. I'm absolutely really convinced it's not cynical. The original application approval for the conversion was 2007. So, if that were the case, the applicant would have been playing extremely long. I think, it doesn't really stack up to me. And I have this site when I was dealing with the council, sometime between 2007, 2010. I remember when the application came forward this time. So on balance this time, and bear in mind the report involves the representation of the board councillor, parish council, and hearing what I've heard from the applicant supporters and the applicant as well. I'm minded to support the application this time.
Okay, floor members?
Thank you. I intend to agree with Mr. or Councillor Ripley on this one. Looking at the plan with the report, it's dated from February 2007. And it may have been good enough for the purposes for which it was drawn. I'm not sure it's fit for the purposes we are requiring on today. It would be very difficult to scale unless you have the original. So I think if we are going to get this properly checked out, then somebody needs to visit the property to take measure to make sure that's properly done, because I'm not sure that this drawing would be adequate to scale properly. The second point is about the affordable housing, and bearing in mind that the contribution is 151,000 for planning 2 applications. I just was interested to know whether it is a specific formula that we're working to, or we're basing on what's been offered. Because it doesn't strike me as, it strikes me that we could probably get a better deal out of it.
We do have our housing and admin officer with us today in alongside. I'm going to ask Jo if she comes in the microphone and answer those questions for the whole community. Jo, good afternoon, welcome to my committee.
Thank you. Hello, members of planning committee. Yes, the calculation was based on, of course, the total number of revenues of both applications presented to you, and that's equivalent to 1.5 affordable homes, which would then use the Taunton Dean affordable housing calculator, including the details of what scheme the both applications are, and that's what generated the figure, which is actually in line with the options 3, give or take a little bit of money, that the applicant was proposing as well, and that's why we accepted that.
Just to be clear, then it's to a set council formula one rather than a reflection of potential capital gain. Is that correct?
Yes, it's using the Taunton Dean affordable housing calculator in line with the affordable housing SPD.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Rupert, I won't do it with a few time to a feature. Will proposal please make sure everybody is correct and we can do that, everybody understand what it is we're proposing.
Thank you, Chair. I'll give it a go. It's something along the lines of delegate to officers the ability to determine this planning application based on a measure of the areas of properties. And if those properties do meet our standards, size standards, the application is approved, if their debt is refused.
Rosemary, you want to comment?
I'm having to be careful here because I don't want to base my judgments on what I've heard before, but this property seemed to have moved. It was cut off from the village when it came to us before, and now it's part of the village. On that grounds, I'm going to abstain not take part in the vote, because I think it's being determined on what we can get out of it.
Chair, just in relation to the proposal, in addition to what councillor Rigby has said, if officers are going to be given delegated authority to approve, subject to the measurements being resolved, can we also have authority to impose relevant planning conditions and also require completion of the section 106 agreement for the affordable housing distribution?
I don't have this happening to my daughter.
Okay, do we have a second for Andrew Hammond? Okay. Any other comments? Okay,
I'm going to go through this.
sorry.
I'm not sure if there's any amendments I'd like to propose, but with reference to a remeasure, I want to tie the officer's hands to having to go out to physically remeasure if once the industry advances measurements, they are satisfied with their rights, but I'm sure we all agree with that. No. Go on. All right, sure. Okay, fine.
Okay, we have a proposal which has been seconded. Along the lines of that we need to get the measurements checked and agreed, and that delegated powers would be granted to the officers to approve that application if the figures show that it does fit within. It's B11, is it? Yeah, I've got right. And that therefore we also have the approved section 106 and other normal planning conditions. And the 106 will also cover the commuting zone for affordable housing. Okay, so can I see whether you can favour that proposal? Six. Those against? One. Okay, extension. Sorry, and non-extension, sorry. First was extension. Okay. Right, we move on to item 7 on our agenda. Which is remove.
I can be bullied into a submission.
Move on to item 7 on our agenda, which is application number 20/23. Well, we have
Just a question in advance of this, given the foregoing removal of the main region, it would appear that this next one has no reason for refusal. Can we just, if that's the case, can we cut the chase?
I think perhaps the officer can make a presentation.
All right. What's your feeling, Tom?
Yeah.
Right. Application 2023-04 for the removal of the occupancy condition. As you have heard, the recommendation is now for approval, given that, following the appeal decision and the appeal balance. So consult that property plan showing the parts of the law, one of which is going to allow, which is not. People view it like anywhere based on indication of the village. Not surprisingly, similarly, it is also 200 metres away from the settlement boundary, which is about the yellow line. Floor plans, no dispute over space standards at this time. Elevations. Using towards the side. View towards roundabout the one that has been built. So your key considerations here is that the neighbourhood plan is not formally adopted in county for free. It's proposed is considered contrary to consultant policies, however, the plan by the building tenants. Proposal is now recommended for approval.
That's really. Okay, number of speakers on this. The first one on my list is Simon Garden, Mr. Garden. Yeah.
I'll keep this short.
Thank you.
I'll keep this short. The village and the footpaths at the site remain accessible. No material significant changes compared to the previous application. I note that the council's policy A5 does actually state that rural areas, when it comes to assessing them in terms of sustainability or accessibility, must be treated differently to urban areas, and it is accepted that most people will rely upon their car in rural areas for most trips as a fact of life. All the points that I made in the first application remain valid and remain relevant. Therefore, nothing further to add. Thank you.
James Bond. I would say that. Okay, thank you. And Bob. Okay, the second will supply rollers there, that's 3 minutes. Start speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief indeed, probably under 1 minute. All the previous comments I made on behalf of Kingston St Mary Parish Council apply to this item, but I'd just like to add a couple of points. First of all, it was the Parish Council that approached Mr. Haynes to help with the lack of suitable housing in the village for precisely the points that Councillor Perry made earlier. Initially defined in the NPPF about enhancing and maintaining the vitality of local rural communities. And secondly, there is a community land trust being generated in the village by a parish councillor called David Strip that will have material benefits in this case. So in summary, I repeat the recommendation of the parish council for members to approve this application for virtually all the reasons previously made and indeed reflected in your decision to delegate authority for approval, provided the measurements show that the size meets the standard. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Upton.
Thank you, Chair. Again, also, I'll try and be brief as well, considering the change in circumstances. As the previous speaker said, this isn't a by-stealth application. The applicant was approached by the parish council and the community to put forward the application following the housing needs assessment in the village. And just to point out that this application will also be tied with Section 106 to deliver the affordable housing contribution, but we also put forward other forms of potential affordable housing. So Prop 19 could be an affordable rented property or a low-cost open market property. So there is the possibility of providing affordable housing actually at the site, and we're happy to do that. Normally in a Section 106 agreement, there are many forms of affordable housing that are listed, and then what we have to do is submit an affordable housing scheme. So I'm really just trying to open up the type of affordable housing that could be provided here. Could be a contribution or it could be on the site. We'd like to give the options and keep the flexibility if that's possible. Other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Upton. The last speaker on my list is Councillor Dart. Do you wish to speak again?
I have nothing to add,
Oh,
Chair.
okay, thank you for your contribution. Martin? Yeah.
Yes, Chair, I think you had a question just in relation to the Section 106 agreements. You've heard from Joe Humble That's of the options. The favourite one is the commuted sum payment, as we explained earlier.
Okay, I'm assuming it's on the basis of affordability. Yeah. Well, okay. Right. So, list of people, I can honestly can't say this because I saw them. Sarah, you're first.
Yes, I've just been looking back at the application that was made, August, when it wasn't came in. And there was something about stipulation for the plots being offered to people locally and locally. I know that that doesn't really work, and I know that you can't really put that. I just wondered whether that was supposed to be a condition of this application. It says primarily residents of persons over the local connection, parish of Kingston to Mary, which is what was in a previous application. One will give a stipulation of it, but now. The answer to that question.
I think Mark is down there.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. The consideration is open market homes. So I understand the application does include, was discussed previously about a local connection criteria being added. But bear in mind, these are open market properties, not affordable housing. Affordable housing has local connection clauses. But I'll leave it as an open debate question for you in terms of local connection on open market dwellings. But that would not make them through the open market.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Rosemary, next on my list.
Thank you for that, Chairman. What worries me about this application, this is what we're looking at, is we're changing the actual whole area of where we're choosing what housing is to be put there. It was tourism kind of thing, yeah. Now it's going to be open market housing by the looks of it, because we've just changed the look of it. It's very worrying that we can actually change the whole of the ambience of a place, which is what we've done. And I know I'm referring to the last application, but I'm sure this is more the actual look at the whole place. That actual feel of the whole village is what we're changing. And I wouldn't vote for this on that ground.
On this application, item 7 on our agenda, we are looking at the removal of condition number 5, the solid occupancy. So we are in effect agreeing that these units will no longer have a tourism aspect, and they were originally approved specifically for tourism.
Yeah,
so
that is what is worrying me.
Well,
we're not just doing it for these few houses, we're doing it for the whole of the area.
This committee is
that is what you're changing.
This committee is perfectly at liberty to look at what we're getting asked to, which is remove condition 5, which is the whole occupancy, because if the committee chooses to agree with that removal, then it does remove those units from tourism permit. So that's something for this committee to decide. If it decides that they would not like to lose that occupancy for tourism only, then they can make that decision.
So you're saying we vote against this, we actually get the tourism back. Are you saying that?
Yes, it's just the application is to remove the tourism conditions. The actual buildings themselves they are a steep 3 use, they are residential use, and it's just the tourism conditions that control who can occupy it. If those conditions are removed, then they were sold as open market units, anyone can occupy them. If the conditions remain as they are, then they can only be used for tourism purposes.
Okay, so the next person on my list is please.
Next, I just wanted to say, I don't think clearly the recommendation has changed completely, so we don't need to, we shouldn't forget the need for section 106 and delegate the various conditions or any conditions required to the operative. And I would just like to say that I'm not at all happy with the decision that's been effectively taken away from this committee.
Well, the committee is at liberty to impose the condition of tourism only on those units. The application in front of us to remove that condition number 5. That's what this application is for. Now, if the committee chooses to reimpose that condition, they can choose to do so. You can choose to do that or choose not to do that. That's why it's here, for us to make a decision. At the moment, the condition on that one, we're pretty sure I'm right in saying, but at the moment, the condition is they are used for tourism and only. We're being asked to remove that.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought the effect of the recent Gladman decision was more or less carte blanche for development, and therefore make it very difficult for almost impossible us to refuse if we get overturned on appeal. Particularly in the statement that we effectively hostage here.
I will invite our solicitor to comment.
Okay, so the officer report that was published, the single reason for refusal recommendation based upon policy. Since the officer report was issued, we have the appeal decision where we no longer have a finding as the supply currently, and we are now in a sort of valid situation. In those circumstances, the officer's recommendation is that to refuse the application based upon that single reason for refusal would no longer be sustainable at the period, because we are in a sort of valid situation. And therefore, the logical conclusion is that the application is recommended for approval. Now, members may agree or disagree with that recommendation, but that is the officer's position. While I'm speaking, I entirely concur that if the committee's minded to approve that delegated authority be given the full conditions and section 1 as the approval.
So, bring them all back in, just so that we understand. This application, which is separate from the previous application, is to remove the occupancy, tourism occupancy only. Now, we choose to do that, yes, it would be logical to add a section 106 and conditions in the normal manner, no question about that. But it is the decision of this committee as to whether or not we wish to remove that tourism occupancy condition. So, Paul, did you want to come back and then final?
Well, just to say that there are no reasons to refuse it, no planning reasons to refuse it. That's my understanding of where we are. Due to a decision that was taken by an inspector.
Well, Chair, it's a matter for this committee. The officer's recommendation is that there are no reasons to refuse the application any longer because of the change in circumstances. It is ultimately a matter of amendment. But that is the officer changed its recommendation.
Yeah, well, I've sat on this committee long enough and have heard enough planning officers point out to the committee that if they refuse or go against the recommendation, then the chances are they will lose the appeal. So I think we all know where we are on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Forgive me for not knowing the answer to this, but the history is quite long and involved. Is there, on any of these permissions, a condition that limits the number of weeks in a year that the holiday accommodation can be used for? If there is, what is that limit?
And the answer to that?
It's in the legal, it's not to be a holiday accommodation, and you could be having your family with you and one.
I'm going to bring Martin back in.
Just to be clear, in terms of the when in the year it might be let out tourism facility, the condition in question doesn't mention that. The condition in question does say that it'd be restricted to bona fide holiday makers for individual periods not exceeding 4 weeks in total, in any period of 12.
In which case, the whole 52-week year could be occupied, correct? Thank you.
No, sorry. Yeah.
Chair, can I personally accept Nottingham's recommendation?
Second that. Dr. Change back in. Okay. But you don't, I said your voice first. Steve.
And then think, perhaps unfortunately, you've got any, in terms of other roads to take that recommendations from council landing, but can please make sure we valid subject to conditions in section 106, because that is going to be quite crucial.
Okay, so the proposal is that we accept the revised, the revised opinion of planning officers and the grant permission, we remove occupancy conditions, and that we include section 106 and the normal planning conditions, and the 106 for planning affordable housing contribution as per the negotiations with our housing officer, housing officers. And so that's the proposal which we've been proposed. Is there any councillors in favour? Aye. Those against? 1. Abstentions? 2, 3. Okay, we're going to have a 10-minute break now, so if we'd like to be back, please. Okay, yeah, I think there's, thank you for reconvening. We'll move on now and we're on to item 8 on our committee papers, which is 38/22/0344, which is closely linked with item 9. Which is 38/23/0103 listed building. They both represent the development at Rear Lodge, 83 Taunton. I'm reminding you the reason these are coming back is because we asked them to come back to this committee. But Gareth, good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, 2 applications, planning application, listed building application. Site on the corner of February Road and Woodville Green. Chairman said it's come back to members, it was considered in October last year, when the listed building application was deferred for their decision from the planning application. It was supported by members subject to a possible solution. That's the red line site area. I'll just flip through these. I'll do a full presentation given that members had that last time. But the single dwelling on northern boundary. That's an existing outbuilding that's coming down of the scheme. It's been used in the street scheme, and that's the proposed scheme, 2-story dwelling. Outbuilding down. The end of it is the new dwelling. In relation to the boundary internally, and that's the street view seen. Cross section of the slide. So that's the elevation out onto Woodville Green. Central view area of view. Extreme picture of the site going down the site, and I think this can go coming down the Steppengrove Road. The view from Waverley Green on that corner, and the cruise the one was going. Going back slightly. And then the down Waverley Green looking towards the junction of Steppengrove Road. So the issues are, see, as before, in terms of the something listed building, the own impact in relation to conservation area, backwards and zone 3, and that there is still no current phosphate solution. Phosphate solution has been put forward by the applicant. That is effectively seeking peak credits through a third party. However, the authority needs a legal agreement with that third party to ensure that the peak credits are provided in perpetuity. That is not currently complete, and therefore, technically, at the moment, there is no phosphate solution. As I said, the officer view is consistent in terms of the requirement there is to the character of conservation area and settlement listed buildings, and it's not considered that that is outweighed by the removal of the existing building on site, and that the new dwelling in a two-storey form as proposed on that junction is more harmful than the existing building and its removal, and that is why the recommendations for you as the removal.
Okay, I'm going to bring Lisa's through this comment.
Thank you. Just to follow on from Mr. Clinton said, previously members will recall that committee resolved to further the application to allow us to discuss with the applicant the outstanding phosphate issue, and subject to that being resolved to actually grant the planning permission. As Mr. Clinton has explained, we were required to bring the report back to this committee if the phosphate solution hadn't been secured. The reason why it hasn't been secured is that when we impose what's called a granting condition, a negative condition on grants of planning permission, we require the developer to produce a certificate showing that they have acquired the necessary number of phosphate credits, peak credits to offset their development. Now, to allow that to happen, the local planning authority has to have what's called an overarching agreement with the landowner providing those peak credits. Now, we are currently in negotiation with the landowner that the developer is wishing to use for their peak credits. Draft agreements are being produced, but as of today, that isn't in place. My view, talking to my colleague who's dealing with this, is that that agreement will be in place in the coming weeks and months. There's no reason why that's not occur. But as of today, that's not there. That's why we had to bring the application back to committee. As Mr. Clinton said, the officer's view is still the application should be reviewed, but obviously the committee had a different view rather.
Okay, well, it's not actually, as a public speaker, sorry, yeah, I'm just going to go to the public speaker. I've got two public speakers on this. The first is Mr. Gareth Penwell, please. Mr. Penwell, as ever, sir, come to the public speaking desk, push the right hand button, your light goes on, and your 3 minutes start when you start speaking.
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank the solicitor for his help and comments in respect to this application? You may recall when I was here last time, you voted unanimously to approve the application subject to resolution of conditions, which you've done, and the phosphate solution. We're very close to getting that phosphate solution agreed with the council, as the solicitor has indicated. That's all that stands in the way of us satisfying the phosphate issue on this application. From your solicitor's comments, I would suggest there's been no change in the planning merits from your previous decision where you were reminded to approve the application. So I'm going to invite you to make a resolution to approve the application, subject to, in effect, what's called a granting condition, that we can't do anything until the actual phosphate solution is delivered, signed, sealed and delivered. Now, with that, I suggest to you that you have all the comfort you need to determine this application and delegate it to officers once we have the phosphate solution delivered to you. So I would respectfully suggest there's no need for it to come back to committee again. I don't know if you'd like me to address you on the listed building application now, or are you going to have a separate debate?
I'm quite happy for you to talk to us now, Mr. Pinmont, and if required, we'll allow you the opportunity to say something further if we get to that point. It's not, I'm not sure we're going to get to that point, but just to make some comments now, I think it's appropriate that we hear them now.
Thank you, Chair. What I would say to you is that the committee has clearly reached a view on the planning application. And within the consideration of that planning application, you've looked at the listed building merits of the application. So I would respectfully suggest that if you were to look at the listed building application separately, it may be somewhat perverse if you were to reach a different view on the listed building application on its own, when you've already approved the demolition of the building and the construction of the new building in the outline permission. I just reserve the right to come back to again, Chair, but hopefully that's succinctly sets out the decision. And you could have a similar resolution for the listed building application, i.e. a granting condition, until the phosphates issues are resolved. Thank you.
Mr. Pinmont, thank you as ever for your advice.
Thank you.
The second speaker on this is the applicant, Mr. Jonathan Bennett. Mr. Bennett, again, if you get to the public speaking desk, push the right hand button, the light comes on, and your 3 minutes start when you start speaking. So, welcome to my committee.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Speaker. So really, I just want to focus on the phosphate issue because this is the only issue that is outstanding. All the other matters about heritage, I think we paid that back in October. So really what happened is October, you approved both application. The outstanding matter was to mitigate the phosphate issue. So at that time, we weren't qualified for the round 2 credit scheme. In December, we were told that round 3 scheme weren't qualified to us as well. So we have found a private company to offset phosphate. The scheme is to improve the existing septic tanks. So in January, we sent that information to the case officer and the phosphate team, and we have received no objection to the proposed septic improvement scheme. So after that, in January and February, we've been waiting on Section 106 agreement, like my colleague has said, and we expect the council to sign it with our agreement within the next 2 weeks or so. So really, the issue has been resolved. It's a work in progress. I wouldn't say there is no phosphate litigation. We're just waiting on an agreement, and once the agreement is signed, we can't see why this application can't be approved. So again, thank you for your time. I just think this application is pretty much done in my mind. And there's no need to return to this planning committee again.
Again, Mr. Bennett, thank you for your comments. I don't need to refuse. Janet, would you like to come back?
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to one point in relation to the listed building application. If members are reminded to grant permission, or you don't really grant the permission in relation to phosphates or not, this phosphates are relevant from this building or you. So that is very useful there. You put like.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. I think I'm going to propose from the chair that we agree to delegate the decision to the officers, subject to the phosphate solution being agreed and acceptable, because obviously we need to have, at the moment, there isn't a signed agreement. That's the issue. There isn't a signed agreement. So I think we insist as a committee that came back to this meeting on Thursday, but we thought that was long enough to get it resolved. For whatever reason, it hasn't been. So I think the best thing I'm going to suggest would be that we defer it for a period of time to allow that to happen. Because I believe there's goodwill on all sides. We just need the council requires the content of the sign section 106. And we can't do anything until we have got that and it satisfies all the requirements. Okay, I've got three councillors wanting to speak. I'll take them in the order I saw them, which is Stephen, followed by Norman, followed by Willie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect, there might be two things going on there, because we're either going to defer it, or we're going to give officers delegated authority. I think what you started off by saying is what I would go with, which is to give officers delegated authority to approve, subject to the phosphate agreement in place. And I think that what Mr. Ordnance was favouring, unless I'm mistaken.
No, that's it for you, Chair. That's correct. It's whether if still the phosphate solution doesn't come from whether at some point it's still undetermined.
My apologies a lot. Norman, you were
just a minor thing, Mr. Chairman, but if my memory is correct, in our October meeting, we did not approve or take any decision as this committee on this planning application. What we did at the time was we said that there was an existing planning permission that had previously been granted, and the officers could go back and resolve it and the issues. Now,
I'm going to refer to Martin on
Thank you, Chair. I'll just read the minutes of that. That the application be deferred to allow officers to discuss with the applicant the outstanding phosphate issue and the imposition of planning conditions, and subject to these matters being resolved, to grant the planning permission. So that was the minutes. It was based, what you quite right, Councillor, on the previous decision, the Somerset West planning committee, which did.
I didn't, yes. All right, I didn't make comments at the time on that minute, and but I don't remember clearly that you said we would grant it if there's a lot of difference. I don't think officers would grant it. Yeah.
The minutes is the minutes of the match, but improved by the committee being true record of flaggers.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Yeah, it's on that point. I was trying to. Memory isn't as good as Councillor Powell, so I was trying to understand what the report was saying. Now, it appears on first reading that it was delegated to seek a phosphate solution. Didn't imply permission for everything else had been passed. I think that is what the minute is saying. Now, if the minute is saying that, why have we got a whole raft of reasons for refusal that are beyond the phosphate? Because the only matter to be resolved is phosphate, and it hasn't been resolved. And my first question is why it's come back to the committee anyway without just being a question of sort of bouncing it on to the next meeting or whatever. But I am slightly confused as to, because can the October committee bind the hands of this committee in part? And that's the point, because it can't say, well, we'll give you permission for these bits, but this bit is outstanding. So where does that leave us today?
Black margin, aren't you?
Yes, I've read the minutes that was approved. I mean, the committee is free to determine the application today, whichever way it so which is based upon the information you have in front of you today, including your previous decision back in October. I mean, clearly the officer's position hasn't changed. The officer's recommendation is still that the application should be refused. That's not the view of the committee in accordance with the minute last time. And the reason in fact of this committee is that if we were officers were required to bring it back, if a phosphate solution or even planning permission had not been issued by now.
Okay, so just to satisfy my pedantry, nothing else, then this committee could quite properly contribute that mistake and refuse it and go with the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, see. Well, just coming back to it, Mr. Chairman, I think that the minute, in my recollection of the last meeting, was fairly clear that members were enabled to approve it, subject to the phosphate agreement being in place. Therefore, our work to go ahead and agree this today, delegation of authority to the officers to approve, subject to the phosphate agreement being in place, reminding what we should be doing now. And the debate is whether or not we should say, indeed, that is not in place within X months, that we should be brought back to it again. And that's the key thing.
Yes, I agree with you, that's the key one. The issue is I genuinely do not know. I hear the applicants from the officers saying they are close enough, but the things that fly in the ointment is their third party that are providing the phosphate solution. Because we, as an authority, have yet to release our third tranche of P credits. And I don't know, maybe officers can tell me when we're likely to issue our third tranche of P credits or invite applications. So the time scale is elastic because I generally don't know where with that.
That's the key point is if the phosphate agreement is in place, it won't be approved. So, well, that's that.
Yes. Yeah, without
so I think in that case, I am going to agree with you unless I'm secondly what with Mr. Chairman, with the commissions that we grant delegation authority to the officers to approve subject to the phosphate agreement being in place. Okay.
Yes, and additional planning conditions.
Yes, and yeah. So, you prepare to second. So yes, we'll okay, ladies and gentlemen, any other?
Is there any time limit?
We haven't put a time limit because I think the other thing I was going to take, because we've heard the applicants say they hope it will be done in the fall. We know it has to be a third party legal agreement with this authority, which, with all due respect to everybody, I'm not fully convinced when we're down the fall. I'd like to look at it, but I'm not prepared to go around and say this will be done in 21 days. So I don't really want to put it back on for it to have to keep coming back whilst we are waiting for a third party to agree with the third party legal team to agree with our legal team that they are in agreement. Sorry, you do this like that, like this, why you're a solicitor. But you get the point. And so I'm not inclined, unless Stephen has a version of it, to put a time limit on it at this time. And I would just urge everybody to move as quickly as they possibly can. Okay, so we've had a proposal to be proposed and seconded. You want to really make a happy with the words, Martin?
I think, Chair, it's to delegate This is to approve the application subject to the resolution of the phosphate issue and the imposition of relevant planning conditions.
Okay, so can I see those in favour of planning? Right, we now move on to the listed building. What we have just agreed. Darren, if you want to present the report, please.
In terms of the listed building application, it's really as per sort of the plan to be saying the issue is the impact on the setting of the listed building, which is being matched off behind the dwelling, and across the other side of the road, with the green, which are also a listed building. The recommendation is, as per the report, in terms of the impact on the setting being considered unacceptable, not being offset in terms of the removal of the outbuilding as a palm, and the recommendation is as before. Members did not come to a decision on the previous committee in relation to this application, but purely deferred to.
Yes. That would be addressed. Sorry, Mr. Pinwell, my apologies, sir. Please come to the public speaking microphone, and as per normal, push the right hand button, the light comes on, and your 3 minutes begin when you start speaking.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm lodging to repeat what I said to you before, in that you've now reached a position on the full application. And as part of your deliberations on that full application, there are paragraphs in the report dealing with the listed building and the effect of the proposed development. So having reached a view on the full application, I respectfully suggest that the correct course of action is for this application to be approved, but subject to the conditions that one doesn't need a phosphate condition, but it should be tied in for a delegated authority for the officers to determine alongside the full application. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Pinwell, as ever, thank you. Mr. Ben, did you want to speak again, sir? No? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, comments, views, questions? So,
Does that happen to find a duration phase?
This is a list building set application within, so that doesn't apply to sort of tilted balance doesn't apply to the situation. And also, planning permission for dealt with, the tilted balance doesn't apply there because it's impacting upon heritage assets. And it's one of the exclusions from the NPPF tilted balance, which is why we haven't referred to offices in the building. Just in terms of the listed building application, you've heard the comments from Mr. Pinwell about the decision you've just taken and the impact that has on this application. The members obviously have a choice. You could determine the application now, or you could implement advise them to defer us those issues at the same time as the planning commission once the phosphate solution allows the commitment on.
okay. No comments or speakers? I'm very sure. Oh, sorry.
Chair, I was just going to recommend that we approve plan permission that's deferred until the previous application. Minded to agree with Councillor Beverley. I read carefully the heritage impact paragraphs 10.2. And of course, it is also very difficult to be able to judge on the basis of such illustrations as we're seeing at the moment, which generated images. In my view, we want to go circumstances where there might be less than substantial harm. There are many more heritage sites where I think you could say that damage would be done by an application of this sort. It does not strike me personally that this is one of them. It is very much a subjective assessment, I have to say. Where one or two people looking at this application call, so to speak, without the issues that we talked about in the previous application, I think I would still be minded to approve it.
Okay, thank you, Joe. There is, of course, it is in the conservation and so the conservation to use a supplementary planning document. If no sort of notes that the building that's due to be demolished to make way for this new taxed on the heritage site. So, our own supplementary planning document. So, I'm inclined to agree with the rest and substantially in my view. So, I agree with that. Okay. So we have I'll second that, but I think it's seconded by those. I'll see those in favor. Okay. So yes, Robson and Steve Collins. No, I think there is goodness now. I'm not 100% sure.
Didn't we get to be doing work? It's very
Yes. Yeah. They're on their way. A short pause while our colleagues rejoin us. Yes. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, yes, that'll be just a coffee machine. But it's not something. Actually, it's on the next slide. Yeah, it's a particularly man. Well, the is staying there. I hope you will. Let's go for the thousand. I think you will. By communication to the money, you're foot in my hand. It's fine.
We'll be done.
Yeah. It's near to people.
No, we can see it anyway.
The day after, I think it's further. It's a man. Don't think good behaviour and then you're making it. And then I'm always in front of it. I mean, okay, we're all back now. So we're going to move on to agenda item in our agenda item 10, which is 24 and 22 of the 0053, which is the land to the northwest of 32 Greenway. Will represented obviously is Gareth Clifford again. Gareth, good afternoon. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You seem to really welcome yourself to the chair this afternoon. Thank you for your time and whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an application for 2 glamping pods and meeting space for parking and even charging on land of Greenway Current. So each pod's around 6,000 meters in diameter, 4.5 meters high. And generally, stadium field companies for grading. So the access will be via an existing field gate and the existing access onto the lane. Right, so the proposed access is of the existing field gate onto Greenway. Previous application, which was withdrawn, was using the existing access of Oxon Lane. Highways are projected to that in safety terms, hence the revised submission. So there, overhead aerial view of it. So you've got Oxon Lane coming across the top of the site, the access of Greenway to cause of proposed the western end of the parking first with the proposed access point. As you can photos, there's a fairly well established boundary. So that's what the pods would look like on the shingle roof, dark sides. That's the layout, the 2 units. That's the view looking back towards North coming from Greenway, the access point and back here. So you'd have to cut the edge of everything would be cut back to by the display. Yeah, that's the access point. And we have display on the slide. So that's a view looking directly at the access field gate and the actual ground cost and style would effectively be to the left of that, so they're not aligned with the access, so they're not going to be directly visible from the access point. That's within the site, looking to the western end of the field with 2 pods that we are going. Access track would be along that side. And closer up, you can where the pods are going, and you see the very well established edge line on that. Again, sitting round, so the optimal lane is effectively set down below that boundary edge. So they wouldn't be visible for the lane either. And that's the view from the site looking south. Again, we looking south for the proposed access gates to the roadway gate. But the car parking area, effectively going here, that's the existing access gate, which would be closed off. About 1 letter, in addition, since the report was written, basically suggesting that that access should be closed off altogether to both pedestrian and vehicle traffic. Moment expectedly just closed to vehicle traffic. There will still be a pedestrian access points in that location. That's the view, obviously, from Oxon Lane and back up to that access gate. High authority have raised its issue in relation to pedestrian access The uses include to comply with policy DM2 and DM1. There will be additional planting proposed, and that's conditioned. It's not in a flood risk area. Highways are happy with the proposed access onto Greenway and the recommended conditions. Ecologists are happy with the impact in terms of wildlife and habitat. And there is a sewer that runs through the site, so it means they would have to link to that, and therefore they have to come up with a cost-effective solution that provides mitigation on site. Naturally, they are happy with that proposal, and the recommendation reflects that with Section 106 agreement to take that into account. Concern being raised by the parish council largely in relation to the site for this, which was the Old Forest Gypsy site. However, we're obviously looking at each application on its merits, and two glamping pods with different site access, I would suggest, is not really comparable to the Gypsy site that was unauthorized. So in summary, there's not considered to be any adverse impact in terms of landscape character or flood risk or animal safety, and subject to Section 106, it's recommended for the provisional approval.
Thank you, Gareth. Yes, councillors with long memories will remember the Oxon and Northside Gypsy encampment from some years ago. Looking around the room and see a number of us are still here and remember that. So I understand the concern as well, understand why they were made. I've got a couple of public speakers on this. The first speaker is from the parish council, Jean Leader, please. Again, if you come to the speaking desk, sit yourself down when you're nice and comfortable, of course the right hand button, the light will come on, and your 3 minutes begin when you start speaking. And thank you for your patience.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Jeannie Leader, Vice Chair of Perry Parish Council. We would like to emphasise the sensitivity of this application. In itself, it is not a controversial change of use and proposal, especially with the amended access on Greenway. The issue, however, is its location next to a site owned by the Gypsy community. As you just mentioned, several of you remember, this site was illegally developed over a bank holiday weekend in 2004, and after 6 years of intense wrangling that included parliamentary questions and £100,000 of sunset money, which is equivalent to £145,000 today, the development was finally rejected in 2010 by the Office of the Deputy Prime Minister, and an injunction was put in place. And it's still on the news website to be seen today. The letter from Mr. and Mrs. Perney sets out some detailed points about the arguments used there. And you can see from Mr. John Holland's comments, which I have a copy of here, that he will immediately put in a planning application again, should this permission be granted. North Carry Parish Council urge you at the very least to look in detail at the notes from the 2004 to 2010 case before opening what could be a very upsetting and costly can of worms again.
Your comments. The next public speaker is Mr. James Leafield, please. I hope I've got the background. Excellent. Again, so if you come to the public speaking desk, and when you're ready, sit yourself down, push the right hand button, the light comes on, and your 3 minutes start, and you begin speaking.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
James Highfield, LSL Architecture, represents my client, Catherine Baker. Catherine owns the field to which this application relates, and Mother owns the remainder of the field to the south and number 32 Greenway. Catherine would like to carry on grazing her horses on the paddock whilst providing revenue income through the delivery of 2 glamping pods. This particular application seeks the approval of 2 glamping pods with the relocation of the access from Oxon Lane to Greenway. This is to ensure that we address the concerns from highways and local residents regarding the traffic and visibility to Oxon Lane, Greenway Junction. As a little bit of a background, within this new application, the reason why we've taken it to Greenway, we've actually improved the visibility from the existing access onto Greenway. We could have improved it to actually match the standards with as set out in the highways standing advice. However, we've actually cut that off at the corner of the junction to prevent the betterment of that junction on Oxon Lane. This modest scheme for 2 glamping pods will greatly enhance local businesses and the wider community. The use of the traditional materials such as timber cladding, shingle roof will benefit from their landscape character and not have adverse impact on the residential community wildlife. Electric vehicle points contribute to providing more economical and energy efficient ways to travel. To confirm, the access onto Oxon Lane will be stopped at and has been conditioned of the approval, I believe. I must note that this application should be valued on its own merit, and that doesn't have anything to do with the gypsy site to the northwest. I've read the planning junction myself and feel that the council sorted it out pretty well at the time. But based on the positives derived from the scheme, the planning officer's representation and recommendation for approval, we trust that you will all support this application. Thank you for the time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Thorpe. Councillor School, anyway, first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, notwithstanding the point about the adjacent site, it's always my understanding we could only deal with what's in front of us, rather than anticipate future issues. But having said that, I must admit I'm slightly, if you look at the plan, as to why these glamping pods are so far away from civilization, as it were. They're right out in the countryside at the furthest extremity. And I do wonder whether that's necessary. I don't have a problem with the glamping pods, but sticking in the far end of the field where they will effectively extend human interference and things like that, disturbance, when they could be located much closer to the village. I think is my main concern here. But I'd be very interested to hear what everybody else has got to say.
Yeah, it's going to be possible to put the schematic back up. Thank you.
The other plan that's in the report. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, well,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. Norman. The shot before,
The question was, when you see a sketch like that, and I know that the presentation said that car parking is at one end. It looked rather like that's being tracked all the way down through there for vehicular access. It might be an animal track in the past, I don't know. But it does look as though it's the whole width of the field. And I take, can you point out to me which is the SSI boundary for this area? Because there's been on this at all. Because of course, part of the objection to gypsy encampment was the fact that it was on SSI site at the time.
No, there isn't a metric that's like that in relation to this site.
There is, so that's been removed since the 04 situation, which will not help us at all. I know we have to deal with the planning application in front of us. Okay. Mr. Chairman, well, as Adam said, we have to deal with the application in front of us, and I've not really seen that we've got any particular grounds for accepting the recommendation, which is the additional approval subject to legal release, secure Mr. What's that? More tree. So I will move that.
Okay, thank you. It's been proposed that we accept the officer's recommendation, and I'm proposing Putty, so I'm second of that. Okay, any other comments before we go to the vote, ladies and gentlemen? No comments? Okay, I'll see those in favour of accepting the officer's recommendations. Please. Abstentions? Abstention. Or any against? Okay. Right, that application has been passed, so we now move to application number 11 in our pack. And that is application number 23 of the 0409, which is for 10 Greenway Road, Chelmsford. I also might get this. So, sorry,
No, the light is in the office.
Oh, you're online. My apologies. Sorry. They didn't tell me you were doing it remotely. Apologies, Mike. Welcome. You're muted currently. Oh, yes, well, after that poor introduction. You're still muted, Mike. Fine, are you ready?
So we accept the officer's recommendation.
If I'm not saying thank you very much indeed. Okay, someone just laughed or looking for you when you came into that. Okay, good enough, isn't it? Before anybody says anything else, I'll just point out that this application is here solely because the applicant is staff member, managing staff member, and staff, and that's his wages here, it's also why it's the last one. And before I forget, the April planning committee meeting on the 16th been cancelled, and it's going to take place on the 1st of May instead. Oh, change from diary please, boys and girls. I had to point out that it's not a great date to leave it at hate, but it's the March week. This is what they call it. Wasn't it? We want to go to the March the 19th. Okay, enough of this privilege, Mr. Hips, thank you for joining us. And it's application 10/23/0409. It's the change of use from a residential garage into a dog grooming saloon at 10 Greenway Road, Taunton. Mr. Hips, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, thank you, Chair.
No problem.
Okay, so let's just run through the slides. So here is the site with the property outlined in red. Located to the north of Greenway Road, the A358. Here is the property. So the whole property is outlined in blue, with the bit that is subject to the application outlined in red. So the existing front of the garage would there'll be some slight changes with the existing garage door to go, and that's to be replaced with a standard pedestrian door and a window with a brick infill underneath the window. here is the floor plan showing the garage with the front and the rear access to the garage. This is a plan showing the road frontage. As outlined in the report, there is to be a fence panel put in at the existing access to ensure that it cannot be used for cars, so that it's pedestrian access only. We'll just come on to the photos in a moment. So that plan shows that fence panel to be installed. And here is the property here. There is the existing frontage. The rear garden, you can see the garage on the side. And here are the planning considerations. So the impact on the character and appearance of the area, property, impact on residential amenity, and impact on highway safety. So all of these are set out in the officer report and subject to the conditions set out, which are designed to mitigate any of the impacts of the development. The recommendation is perhaps take any questions.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, questions to say? Sorry.
I think you said it's one accommodate on things, but I think there'll be lots of dogs came on board. I mean, I don't know, I don't know when I might have been rude, I don't stay, so I don't know whether they bark or not, or whether they just advise me, I don't know what they do, but and then won't any people go back to the port to drop them off, and there'll be more car journeys, so it's a residential area, that's the only consideration for me.
Yeah, there will be comings and goings. So as set out in the report in the residential amenity section, it's felt that the impact will be acceptable. These sort of comings and goings would be what you expect in the residential area with a property like this. It's also expected that quite a lot of people will come from the local area, so people probably walk because parking has been restricted in that location. So I think comings and goings will be acceptable in this instance.
That was my comments really about the dogs and the notice you issued that to 7 dogs today, but there's no guarantee of course that dogs are going to walk. They may want to park, they may not, it's based on the reputation, they may not room further afield. So I can't see anything in the report. Is there anything condition wise or notes or having discussions with the applicants regarding dog parking noise?
It isn't, yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to sort of control sort of parking through condition. I mean, I think ultimately you've got to sort of leave it to the professionalism of the dog group and their ability to sort of control the dog and to have it in a decent, well-controlled environment where it's not induced to bark, I think. But also in this case, because it's inside a bricks and mortar garage, it's felt that will provide a decent amount of sound buffering. So it's not like it's in a timber shed in the back garden where the sound buffering wouldn't be as good.
So it's not going to be running free though?
No, so it's purely going to be an indoor operation, which is felt to be acceptable. Obviously, if it was in the back garden and dogs sort of passing through the rear garden, that might be different. But in the garage, in a bricks and mortar garage, it's felt that the impact's going to be okay.
Thank you. Rob Fulton.
Thanks. I think I was interested in the fact that it was screened out for phosphates. I don't know what goes on in these dog grooming places. I hesitate to think, but I do anticipate that they would probably get shampooed while they're there. And actually, if you're going to shampoo 7 dogs a day, 5 days a week, I would have thought there is a phosphate load. That's involved in that. Or whether it's regarded as de minimis, I don't know. I mean, it strikes me that, I mean, how many gallons are you going to soak the dog in, shampoo it, going to go down the same drains? Anyway,
Indeed. Robin, do you want to come in now, or do you want to let Derek come in? Is this your
I don't see Martin said that I was thought was But if you work on the basis that the dog isn't shampooed there, the dog is likely to be shampooed elsewhere in the catchment area, then the phosphate's going to end up, if you've got dogs come in out of the catchment area to be shampooed, and all being shampooed when they otherwise remain unshampooed, there could be additional phosphate. I would thought it's reasonable to assume they get one somewhere, then they come up over in the first place.
Yeah, well, it's not a smart story, I agree with that, but anyway, I mean, I guess it's probably de minimis, but I thought it was well worth mentioning.
But the way to say it on the screen like this.
Thank you for your contribution, Rob. Your condition.
I think Derek wins the micro there because, of course, officers have no phosphate problem, do they? So, no, I think you've got it covered, or I hope you've got it covered by the hours of operation. But there's like no Sundays, how you can specify those hours of operation? Because quite frankly, dogs are barking from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. They could be as they're being walked along the road, but if they're being barking at 9 o'clock at night, it's a bit different.
Yeah, so condition 4 says that the business shall only operate during 8:30 until 5:30 Monday to Saturday, at no time on either Sundays, bank holidays, or other public holidays.
Good plan again.
Quite briefly.
I'm happy to, that might perhaps slightly through this earlier proposal, if it was in fact a serious proposal, I mean, but important.
My seconding definitely was not for this, really just in clarifying that. And can I just say that this is a grooming establishment, it's not a kennel. And so the likelihood of having lots of dogs, making lots of noise at one there is, I think, fairly limited. I'm mindful of the fact that there's a dog grooming parlour just on the opposite side of the street from here. And if you look down, you barely hear anything outside of that. And I think that's exactly the same.
Okay, we've had a proposal, we've had the recommendation proposed and seconded. Can I see those in favour of granting permission, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Remind everybody that we've got a planning meeting in March is the 19th, and the later one is moved to the first one. It's the Wednesday. Right, which is a Wednesday. Wednesday. Yes. Okay, and then we've just got our favourite bit right at the end. Sarah comes along instantly and goes to the new field.
My apologies, members, that I haven't actually done a written verbal update for this, but it's a fairly straightforward bill, but I will put a note together and just send that out separately if that's acceptable.
Comments? Fine.
One very good question. Had this appeal been decided this week, do you think the outcome would be different in the light of the requirement for special?
The other decision that's attached to the continuing board isn't the recent Michael appeal decision, because that arrived too late for having papers. I think it could well have been different decision, because we made it automatic and why the total balance if it hadn't come out in advance.
Okay, can I ask Alison to just quickly run through where we are with the tilted balance and the fibre analysis? Just, I'm hoping we will be able to take some comfort from what Alison is about to tell us.
So thank you, Chair. Every year we update on highway housing as well, we're just about to start that process again. Obviously, we are going to seek to expedite that in the light of the inspector's decision. The inspector bases their view on the most recent highway housing and supply that's been published, which was last year now. And because of that, we weren't able to take into account at that time sites which we can now take into account because we now have more phosphate solutions available. So the early indications of growing grades that we've been see are that if we want to redo it now, we would be able to demonstrate as the plans apply. However, until we've done that work and published, we can't actually heavily it will not it has a nice slide. So it's not to do the sort of parties. We had to make the decision and recommendation based on those positions, which is that as in this decision.
Andrew.
Yeah, is that dependent on whether the next lot of phosphate peak credits becomes available?
No, it's not completely dependent on that. As we heard earlier this day, there are a number of not great schemes that are now available or coming forward. So there are solutions outside the council side of the phosphate solution. We also have secured the Nutrient Mitigation Fund grant monies, which will enable us to bring forward some additional phosphate mitigation measures, which we can rely on in the next 5 years to demonstrate.
Well, yeah, so on the technical point, bear in mind that we found ourselves in this situation that, an extent out of the blue. How does this impact on the day-to-day work of the department? I mean, if you were to refuse under officers delegated powers an application, what would be of which where 5-year plan supply may be relevant, would the impact of any appeal hit the date of the decision, which will be, I'm assuming you're going to be take a few weeks to get the review up and running. Are any decisions you make in that time likely to be at jeopardy of an appeal? Or will it be just things that come to this committee for instantaneous? Because actually, there's no reason why an officer under delegated power actually has to take a decision. They could kick it down the road and play the game, if you like, if they wanted to, although there are mechanisms within planning law to sort of force you. But clearly, if it came to a committee like this, then the decision would be taken on the day, and the situation pertaining at that point would be the relevant one. And of course, the second thing is how many appeals have we got expected coming forward that are like, because I suspect that's the iceberg under the water that we don't have much of a handle on. Sorry, there's quite a lot in there.
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to how many outstanding appeals might be to buy or the integrated decision, but we can certainly have a look to see what the position is. Of course, it will be inspectable, then have to take into account the actual situation on the day that they make a decision. So depending on how long we've down the line, public inquiries, and hearings on them, so ones, then we will go to our position really briefly not changed by then. In terms of officers, yes, obviously we have to apply the domestic balance unless we can show there is actually demonstrable harm. The right results of other issues that arise, and you will see today in respect to the first one. We felt that there was demonstrable substantial harm caused by the fact that we deal with other issues by space now.
Right, can I just come back to one point? In terms of the appeals, can the inspector insert this evidence off his own bat, or does he have to have it brought to his attention within either the paper exchange or the hearing itself?
Well, my experience of how it works is that you can only deal with the information that's put before you. Sarah's also been a previous one inspection as well. So unless the information is brought to the attention, I find the accountable for the planning authority, then you can't predict information.
Slightly rich.
Okay. Welcome, Ted. Welcome, we close the meeting. Thank you very much for all taking your help.